A whole new tune.
Freaking Miles, man. Genius.
That first one's a Fibonacci sequence.
Ma!
How get your hand off of that? Oh.
47 for sure.
That's the atomic number for silver. Are you sure that's silver?
That's silver. So this is it.
All together now. 1, 2, 3. Look at that.
My dear friends, my beautiful disruptors, my closest inner circle.
We could all use a moment of normalcy, and so you are cordially invited
For a long weekend on my private island.
Where we will celebrate the bonds that connect us, and I hope your puzzle-solving skills are whetted.
because you will also be competing to solve the mystery.
Of my murder. Travel details to come. Please forward any dietary restrictions. Love and all my kisses, Miles.
Ma, where's my spear gun? I got it packed. Babe, get packed.
What's that?
I don't know.
Hello. Good evening. Good evening.
Click.
Thanks for coming out. I am Nick Kwa. I'm a critic for Vulture, and this is Rian Johnson.
Hey guys, thank you for coming. Hello. Beautiful crowd.
Just to level set a little bit, who here has seen Knives Out? But also, who has not seen Knives Out? Just raise your hand, it's fine.
No shame. No shame.
Yeah, so, sorry, but you know, you should go see it. We'll hold back on that though. How you doing?
I'm so good. Thank you guys again for coming out. This is really cool.
So we're here to talk.
And Nick, thank you for doing this.
Oh, of course. So we're here to talk about Glass Onion, the sequel. Would you consider a sequel?
I don't think it's a sequel. No.
The second part, the second installment, the second entry.
This has been an ongoing conversation with Netflix, how to kind of like make sure people know that it's a continuation. That, and the way I think of it, and I guess this is a good starting point. Like the whole thing came from me loving Agatha Christie and me growing up loving her books and loving the movies made from her books. And so I was thinking of it the same way that she did her books, where it's the same detective, but that's kind of...
But the timeline is somewhat ambiguous.
Yeah, the timeline shouldn't even matter, I think. And so it's really a whole new cast, a whole new mystery. It's just kind of its own deal. And hopefully also its own reason for being. Like it's not just turning the grinder handle on another one of these.
I have so many questions related to that, but I'm gonna sort of put that aside for now.
I'm gonna move my chair back. I feel like I'm
it.
sitting way in front of you. It's making me sorry.
So just to set this up, Glass Onion, the other movie from the Knives Out.
I just want to make it as verbally awkward for you as possible to describe
I appreciate it.
That's my
I've earned my
goal.
paycheck today. I've seen it because it's a murder mystery, because of the nature of Glass Onion. Much of the delight of the movie is in its many, many, many surprises. The kinds of surprises are also manifold, so we will only speak of it in extremely general terms.
It's going to be so frustrating. Sorry.
I know.
For everyone involved, this is not going to be...
We'll just talk about Knives Out if that's the case. But I just want to... So let's start with Knives Out. 2019 Knives Out, the maiden Knives Out. Since it's come out, it's critically acclaimed, widely beloved by folks who are really, really into the murder mystery genre, and also people who are not super familiar with the murder mystery genre. It is a meme machine. I believe I saw 2 Chris Evanses with sweaters this past Halloween. And I was just sort of curious, like, were you surprised to the strong response to the first movie?
Yeah, I mean, when I sat down to write this one, I was coming off of the Star Wars movie that I did, and it was a little thank you, thanks guys, and so yeah, I but all to say, I was coming off of like this big movie that was obviously the biggest thing probably I'll ever do in my life, and it was like this huge and even my friend, when I sat down and wrote this murder mystery, the genre was something that I mean, there were good examples of it being done, but it wasn't something that was really at the forefront of anything. It was kind of something that had been lying there for a bit and kind of getting a little dusty. And even friends of mine who really enjoyed the script, when I showed it to them, were kind of like, "Oh, you sure you just want to do a murder mystery?" Like, it was kind of the idea that I was kind of like spending this that I could take a bigger swing, but I just love this genre so much. And I also, having grown up watching, like, remembering sitting around the TV with my family and watching Death on the Nile with Peter Ustinov, or watching Evil Under the Sun, or and just feeling like that's like the most fun a movie can possibly be. You have like an all-star cast. You've got, Maggie Smith and David Niven, and you've got, it's just every single new face that pops up, it's like you're leaning forward. And the comedy in it and the fun of it, and I just thought this is something that, I don't know, this is something I know I'll enjoy, but I had no idea whether audiences still wanted that. So, no, all to say, it was a big surprise.
And yet, so you felt at risk. You wanted to do it. What? It's funny to me to hear that the assumption is that it's like a smaller step, like you're moving from Star Wars, which is huge, into something smaller. But the murder mystery is broad. It's elaborate. It's lavish.
I agree. Well, also it's a crowd pleaser, and that was the thing that I remembered, I guess, from, like, for instance, like Murder on the Orient Express and Death on the Nile, which were kind of like, you can kind of see as of a piece back then. This kind of late 70s, early 80s phenomenon of the all-star cast, the big glamorous Hollywood production of a murder mystery whodunit. And that, again, that just, it hits all the pleasure buttons. There was the additional thing, which with this, which was setting it in modern day America, and that to me was kind of the thing that actually got me really excited. Was
interesting. So the fact of making it contemporary, was there any moment in the process of maybe writing it, or the earlier seed of the idea, that you were like, okay, maybe Kenneth Branagh had not yet done Murder on the Orient Express, but would you have taken a swipe at the Agatha Christie verse?
Having grown up, I had thought at different times of, like, to do how would you translate any Agatha Christie heads in the audience, like the twist in The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, how would you translate that to a visual medium in a way that works? That could be really interesting. And I'm a huge Agatha Christie fan. I love Kenneth Branagh. I love his Poirot. I think it's hilarious. I think it's terrific. So I'm a junkie. I just watched See How They Run. I really, really love that. I watch every whodunit that comes out. I love them, man. But no, that, I guess, to me, the thing that got me started on it was the murder mystery itself, like the whodunit. It's almost this perfectly engineered machine to engage with culture. It's a ensemble, and each one of the characters kind of represents a different slice of this little microcosm of this society. There's a power structure inherent in all of the suspects, and then there's somebody at the top who's everyone has like a motive to kill. It's basically this. It's almost like a gun that's made to fire a bullet, and meaning it has a purpose, which is to create a microcosm which can reflect society, which is what Christie was doing back in the day.
Yeah,
I think that's kind of the thing that Christie is so. Her work, I think, is so enveloped in this fog of nostalgia at this point in culture, because we've spent years watching these adaptations, which are excellent and good and super fun, and I love them, but they're set in kind of the hazy past. And Christie wasn't doing that. She was writing to her culture. Her very first book, Mysterious Affair at Styles, when we meet Hastings, he's home from the front, from the Western Front, with an injury. That's why he's at this country house. Mm-hmm. And she wrote it in 1916. It's not like she was an incredibly political writer, but she was always engaging with what was happening in that moment in the culture, in where she was at. And the fact that this genre that's uniquely suited to do that had not been doing that for a long while, it got me very excited, the notion of what if we just unabashedly said, yeah, it's set in America right now, and we're going to just talk about. I'm not going to worry about making it timeless. I'm just going to talk literally about whatever we're talking about in the moment.
Yeah, so you've spoken also about how like murder mysteries are somewhat inherently about class, and that it is a vessel and sort of grappling to culture to some extent. I'll just leave that.
Oh my God, we didn't need that
I'll just
one.
leave
That's
that.
fine.
I'll
Yeah,
also leave
those are
that.
the
I'll leave
back.
that.
Oh my God.
It's a way to be political. It's a way to be engage with the politics of the moment without it being inherently political. Is that so your general feeling of this?
Well, I don't know. Yeah, I guess so. It is still political, but I mean, it's not. I don't know. It's a way to. I mean, the other enjoyable thing about it, it's a way to engage with stuff that's happening right now in this comforting candy coating of a murder mystery.
Yeah.
And that's the other aspect of it. I love that candy coating. It's
Medicine
not
with the sugar pill.
yeah,
Kind of
well,
deal.
but it's not like that's a necessary evil to get some point across, because that's not what these movies are at all. It's like you love the whole package, and so it's and so the comforting aspect of it. I mean, that's the other interesting thing. If you read like analysis of murder mysteries and you think about the times when the murder mystery has kind of sprung up in the culture, the golden age of detective fiction in the 1930s.
Right. A response to very dark times.
Incredibly turbulent dark times. And if you think about what a murder mystery is, it's kind of the ultimate example of chaos is created by a crime, and the paternal detective figure comes in and sets the moral universe right by the end by finding the truth and revealing it. And you can see why that was appealing in the 30s. You can see why that is on the very fundamental, and you can argue about how healthy it is, how that's appealing right now, you know.
Given the state of 2022, essentially, is what you're saying.
For instance.
Sure. Would you consider yourself a class warrior kind of guy, class struggle kind of guy? Is that the deal here?
Should I be sipping my drink like consider myself a class warrior?
No, but are you like
This is apple juice, by the way. This is not. It's not apple juice. No, I don't know. No, I mean, I don't know. We're all artists, or look, we're all hyper conscious of the exact same stuff that's in the air in the culture right now. So yeah.
So with Glass Onion specifically, and of course without going into the details necessarily, what did you want to grapple with? What was on your mind? What were you watching? What was interesting to you?
I mean, I don't want to cop out, but I hope because I hope you guys will go see the movie and put a lot of work into weaving all that stuff into the movie in a way that wouldn't feel like me just dumbly saying something. So I'm hesitant to dumbly say something into a microphone. I think it's also similar to the first one. It's not a subtle film. It's not something that needs to be extensively explained. So I don't know. I hope you guys will see it and just kind of see it.
But short of the message, what were you kind of looking around and going, that would be a fun thing to like say something or to build a story around? What were you
Well, the big obvious thing is Edward Norton's character in this is a tech billionaire, and it's funny because I remember like a year ago having conversations with Edward and both of us worrying, oh God, is this whole tech billionaire thing going to have played itself out entirely by the time the movie comes out?
Keep going.
So you pick up. So that's an element of it, and it's it also the movie is again it was sort of just giving myself permission to talk about the same kind of tropes of society that Christie was doing back in the day, but doing those right now. So we have YouTube influencers, and we have SpawnCon Instagram models, and we have SpaceX style glamour scientists, and we have like all the things that are in the culture right now. It's like, okay, let's put them in there.
All of which, by the way, takes place on a beautiful Greek island.
Yeah.
Would it be fair for me to pitch it to friends who are mildly interested as it's Mamma Mia but with murder?
Yeah, please, my God. Is it too late to change the poster? That's fantastic. I'll take that, or the trailer.
Give me the royalties and residuals for that.
Take that at heart. There were so many times on set where like Madeline Klein would be like, "We're doing Mamma Mia 3, right?" Yeah, she's so into it. Yeah.
Did you pick Greece? Like, what was that choice?
Yeah, so I wrote this in 2020. So I wrote this when we were all in lockdown, and so I mean, there was a lot of things that went into choosing the setting, but a big part of it was just kind of all of us in that moment wanted to be on the beach somewhere in a Greek island, and so it was kind of like, okay, fade in Greek island. let's see if this will work.
Yeah.
and it did. So yeah, there's. But I mean, the first movie was very much like in the tradition of the English countryside, English country house,
Oh, the
like
New
cozy
English
murder.
New English.
Well, but in the
countryside,
tradition of kind of
Yeah.
that. So there's this New England, and this one though is, I mean, first of all, I wanted to plant a really solid flag at the beginning for audiences that this was going to be something completely different than the first one. And I think that was a very intentional thing. I think there's so many film series are kind of just building off the first one or like a continuation and just saying right up front, this is going to be the way these movies are, that every single one is totally different. So setting it on a beach as opposed to in the New England fall, I think was a first
So the
kind of
hard
step
cut
with
between
that.
the gloomy, foggy
It's
environs to a beautiful sunny.
Brown and oranges and cut to blue and yellows, kind of as simple as that. But there's a rich tradition, again, any Christie fans, like there's a rich tradition of destination murders, of Evil Under the Sun. Well, the book was originally set in England, but the film, which I grew up watching like 4 times a day on HBO when I was a kid, is set in this beautiful Mediterranean island. It isn't Christie, but The Last of Sheila was a huge, give it up for Last of Sheila. Yes, I saw you clap. Yeah. So Last of Sheila, which I guess if anyone here doesn't know Last of Sheila, I've been.
Please.
I bang the drum for
Be
this
the
movie
Wikipedia page
continuously
for Last of Sheila
because more and more people are discovering it, but still underseen. This is a murder mystery from the 70s that was co-written by Stephen Sondheim and Anthony Perkins. Yes. Oh, I'm seeing faces that are the same thing when I first heard it, which is like, what is this movie? It's the most 70s cast of all time. It's Richard Benjamin as the lead, which automatically pegs it to like a window of 4 years when Richard Benjamin is the lead in movies. It's James Coburn, and you can see we take a huge page from them with the setup of this. It's basically James Coburn is this asshole like Hollywood producer who invites all of his friends to a murder mystery game on his yacht. And it's Diane Cannon Kate Hudson's character in this owes quite a bit to Diane Cannon in Last of Sheila. Raquel Welch, James Mason is in it.
The who's of who's.
Ian
kind of
McShane. It's an incredible cast, and it's a really, really fun movie. Highly, if nothing else comes out of this conversation besides a few more people see The Last of Sheila, this will have been, I will owe Vulture Festival a huge debt.
Very broad question, but what did you take from making the first movie into taking the second? What were the bigger sort of lessons that you sort of took into making Glass Onion from the experience of making Knives Out?
I don't know. I mean, I guess that's a good question. I mean, the thing is, it's not like there were any like hard-won lessons in the first one because we part of making the second was just we had such a good time making the first one. I mean, I guess one of the things was I think going into the first one I was very nervous because we were getting an ensemble of actors together, all of whom have before and could carry their own movie, and I guess. Because I'm kind of a non-confrontational wimp, I was a little afraid. Is there going to be a lion taming element to this that I'm not prepared
Cat
for?
herding or
And I guess the pleasant surprise from the first one is the exact opposite was true. Every one of those actors came into it ready to be part of an ensemble and ready to actually like really take joy in that. And it was true on this one too. I mean, everybody we were hanging out in Greece together, kind of, I think Catherine said, like, we had a beautiful vacation in Greece with some fun people and also made a movie, I guess. It kind of felt a little bit like that. So
with a bunch of cameras everywhere.
Yeah, fuck us, I guess.
Speaking of ensembles, I wanted to actually talk about like the construction of ensembles. But before that, we should play another clip that features Kate Hudson. And it's I think a really good example of like the different sort of auras, the difference of different kinds of celebrities kind of bouncing off each other.
Look at you, Nick.
Well,
all right, yeah.
I'm
sure.
pretty like spiritual guy. Whatever. Could we roll that clip?
I feel like we're on the Dick Cavett show. Let's roll the film.
Lionel, you are too sexy to be a scientist. Claire. You look so cute.
Thanks, Bird.
You really try. I like that. You really make an effort.
Well, I figured Grease.
And no mask, I can breathe again. Look at this pool. I think I'll go for a swim. Maybe I'll lay out for a bit.
You have 4 stars, 4 energies bouncing off each other. So when you construct an ensemble, within a murder mystery, how does that process start? How does that process work? Do you like talk to your casting director first? Like or do you see the pieces of what each represents first?
Well, I mean, it starts with writing the script, so you just kind of write the characters and kind of figure out what their place is. There's the additional thing of kind of knowing that this is being built to be the type of all-star cast that we talked about with like those early Agatha Christie movies, and so there is kind of like the added pressure of wanting to give each one of them their thing and their moment and justify having somebody great in the parts like we have all these people here. But then once the script is done, I sit down with Mary Vernew, who's our casting director, and we kind of see who's available and just hope that we get lucky. I love, by the way, Kate. She plays a character named Birdie J, who's like who was like a fashion magnate who now has a line of like sweatpants that she hawks online on Instagram called Sweetie Pants, and Kate gave like the best description of how she plays the character ever, which is that Birdie understands every third word. And if you watch the movie, just watching her, I think once I had that in my head, once I just watched her reaction shots to the other characters, there's very, very funny. Anyway, yeah.
So, and I assume that's a lot of like, you're playing with the general like celebrity or the general sort of cultural context of each character, of each actor, each actress, bringing it in kind of thing?
Well, not really. No, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, sometimes,
because
I think
Catherine Hahn means something, right? And when you use
what does Catherine Hahn mean? Tell us. Bring us in.
The great every person, who's
Okay.
also kind of grumpy, but great.
I want to get Catherine on FaceTime and have you explain that to me. That's awesome. Yeah, but that's also, I mean, yes and no. That's also kind of like a dangerous game to play because I don't know, because your perception of how someone's perceived could be different than an audience's. I think ultimately the game, as you have to really play it, is just to think of what's the best actor for each part,
Right.
and thinking on that meta level of trying to match up this. It's why like when we're on the press tour, there's a lot of inevitable questions about Daniel with his James Bond role, and he played James Bond in a series of films, and whether when you're writing you're actively kind of like subverting or working against that. And I guess the answer is always, for me at least, always no. I think the way to approach it is just to always kind of come at it above board and not let yourself slip into that meta level, I guess.
Is it like building a fantasy football team?
I don't know. I never played fantasy football, so if you want to take 20 minutes and explain it to me, I'll give you the answer, but I don't know
think we have time, but,
Okay.
but yeah, I'll just sort of let that linger. So when it comes to the actual, with Knives Out, with Glass Onion, the actual mystery element is it's like a watch. Everything kind of works together. Do you diagram it out? Like how do you work out the mystery element? Where do you start?
I do. I'm also curious to hear whether my answer is getting more or less interesting as the level of the glass goes down. Yeah, I diagram, but I also, that's kind of just how I learned to write. So I diagram not just for murder mystery, in the context of doing a murder mystery, but every movie I've done, I start working very structurally. And the first 80, sometimes 90% of the process is working in little notebooks, working out my outline for it. And the outline isn't just the plot, it's the story, which takes into account the themes and the characters and sketches for scenes, and it's a lot of things. But
Do you use spreadsheets?
I don't. I literally use like the small the Moleskine notebooks, and I have a way to just like draw little arcs and write and do little like. I actually posted you can go back to my Twitter and search if you want to be so bold and find the one I did.
Now before it gets nuked.
I should. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, it's still around. You can find me. I'm Elon Musk on Twitter. You can search for me. And I posted the diagram I did for Knives Out, and it's fun looking at it after the fact because it is the whole movie just laid out on this one line with all these little kind of cross hatches with like the names of each sequence. But no, no matter what I'm writing, I need to work that way. I need to know the whole roadmap before I start writing, which not every writer does. I've heard famously the Coen brothers don't, which is incredible to me. I was
Is
just
it like
on
pure like stream of
I was
consciousness
just doing like a roundtable thing with Martin McDonough, and he said he just starts typing. He said that he literally just starts feeling it. That's like a magic trick to me. That blows my mind. But I'm not that smart. I need to have like the roadmap laid out before I can start typing, or I'll get lost in the woods.
Are you a big planner? Like when you go on vacation, do you have a huge itinerary?
No, absolutely not. No, no.
So you keep that.
That's
the streets.
That's for work. Yeah, that's work.
Cool.
With a capital W. Yeah. No,
Cool. So I want to talk about this. Like, so at the very start of this conversation, there's this kind of awkwardness of like, is it a sequel? Is it a follow-up? Where is it in a timeline?
I didn't find it awkward.
I found it awkward.
I found
It's
it entertaining.
Well, you don't find it awkward. It's very hard for me to write.
Watching you squirm.
So, does Benoit Blanc? Because he's the constant in all these films, in the films that will come in the past two films. How do you think about, does he change as a character?
Well, no, I mean, that's one interesting thing. And it's especially when you have an actor and a movie star, which is kind of two different things, in a lead part that's as magnetic as Daniel. I think it can be kind of a trap to start thinking that the detective is your protagonist. Mm-hmm. And that's actually one writing trap, I think, of the whodunit, is to make that mistake. And I think remembering that the detective always is at the center of it, but he's also outside of the realm of the human drama. And ultimately, I think that's why the first Death on the Nile is such, to me, that's like a high watermark in terms of adaptations of murder mysteries, because it has such a solid hook of the love triangle and Mia Farrow's character and the kind of the jilted woman who comes back for revenge. It's got such a great juicy hook to get you into it, and that's ultimately what you want to reach for. And that can't be the detective. The detective kind of has to be godlike and sort of outside of that realm, and kind of, which is all to say that the detective always kind of operates according to the needs of the mystery. I guess he is different in Glass Onion than he is in Knives Out, but that's because he's intentionally kind of playing a different part in order to get to his ultimate thing of drawing these people out and solving the crime.
Yeah, but he's not quite a blank canvas. He's not quite an audience surrogate either. Also, amazing segue, because we had asked you to bring us a scene for you to break down, and you brought us 1978's Death of the Nile, which I'm gonna sort of toss to the clip in a bit.
It's exciting.
I have never actually seen the 78 Death of the Nile until a couple of days ago. And first of all, amazing Maggie Smith suits.
Yes,
just unbelievable. But also, it really holds up. It's so fun. And
it is so goddamn fun.
There's travel. There is random murder. There's snakes. It's great. Roll the clip.
You're probably working on some other book now, madame. Set in Egypt, perhaps?
How thrillingly clever of you to deduce that, Monsieur Porridge. I am here to absorb local color for my grand opus, Snow on the Sphinx's Face. Frozen enigma turns to incandescent love as this young English girl from Hazelmere, scarcely out of school, melts the barbarous heart of a cruel desert sheik.
Somehow I don't think Monsieur Poirot is a very keen reader of romantic novels, Mother.
Of course he is. All Frenchmen are. They're not afraid of good, strong sex. Unlike, I might say, most of our leading lending libraries. They have banned Salome Otterborn for speaking the truth about men and women. But she goes on nonetheless.
The truth, yes. The truth, it's so difficult to tell.
Thank you, monsieur.
Well, perhaps you would join me in a tango, mademoiselle. It's a little exercise after dinner.
You tango, Colonel?
Oh, poorly, I'm afraid, Mrs. Ottoman.
Then I shall teach you to do it richly, as it was done in old Spain when it was known as the chica, that is to say, with a sensuous erotic dash.
Can't you leave us alone?
You have a sexy communist. You have Mia Farrow. You have Poirot, showing his acts of deduction and observation. You have Simon. I forgot his last name, which I only just realized kind of looks like Bo Burnham. What? I know. Why did you pick the scene to break down? What does the scene sort of illustrate for you about like the heights of the Agatha Christie-esque or murder mystery?
Well, all of those things, but I mean, really, the reason I picked the scene is 2 words: Angela Lansbury. I mean, my God, just incredible, and she's having so much fun in this part, and she is just a joy to watch in this movie. And she and David Niven. There's a great moment where Poirot kind of like preemptively like excuses himself and takes the other woman to dance, and there's just a moment of David Niven and sheer terror on his face when he realizes what's about to happen before she sweeps him up. It kind of and Mia Farrow gives a tremendous performance in this movie. She's so good, and I know, it's just delicious, man. It's just delicious. I mean, everything from like the costume design to the beautiful kind of like space that they're in, and every single one of those actors. I kind of wished I could pause and like look at Maggie Smith, look at the tuxedo that she's wearing, man. Look at Betty Davis. Oh my God, it's incredible. Yeah, it's astounding. But you can also see the gears working. I mean, it's the fact that you register that look from Poirot and what he's clocking and sort of. I love that period of that first like half an hour of a murder mystery where you're trying to do the math in your head of who's going to get killed and why, and trying to outthink it. And you can see all that in play here. But coming back to the real point, Angela Lansbury. Yeah.
Is Ustinov your favorite Poirot?
Ustinov is my favorite Poirot. Yeah.
Tell me why.
Specifically in this movie, specifically in Death on the Nile.
This version.
Yes, this version. I love him in. I do love him in Evil Under the Sun, but it's a little bit more of an indulgent love. He's a little broader in that movie, a little goofier, but I still do love him in it. But I think he struck the perfect balance. And to me, when I read Christie, I find Poirot hilarious. And I guess that's the reason that I love Ustinov's take on the character is, although Finney is doing something absolutely crazy unto himself, and David Suchet has like a sharpness to him and kind of like an eagle-eyed danger to him. I love the slight clownishness of Ustinov and how that keys into the kind of pompous self-inflation of that character.
He quotes philosophers. He makes prognostications.
Yes,
he steals food from other people's cabins.
It's an incredibly funny character. So anyway, I love Peter Ustinov's version. I get into fights a lot with Patton Oswalt about this, who is a big Finney booster, and every time I bring up Ustinov, he's like, yeah.
So it's interesting because like in this movie, he's on vacation. He's a famous detective. He's wealthy, and I'm also. It's like, is the murder mystery always sort of grounded within wealthy spaces, or like within wealthy spaces, like places of luxury, places of spectacle?
No, not at all. No. So many of Christie's best work take place. And Murder of Roger Ackroyd, which we mentioned earlier, takes place in a small town. No, like I said, this is one very specific flavor of what she did, which kind of the glamorous getaway mystery. But but no, I mean that's the other thing about Christie is she. And that's the other thing that makes me excited about the notion of making more of these. If you look at Christie's work, I think there's kind of a tendency to think that she repeated herself, that her works are all fall under like a vague grouping of like a country house and the body in the library and the butler, and basically you picture the cover of a clue board basically when you think of Christie. And if anyone who's a true Christie fan knows the exact opposite is the case, that she was not just changing it up in terms of where her mysteries were set, not even in terms of like the plot twists of like how she did the murders or whatever. She was twisting and working and melding genres. You think about Endless Night, which is basically a gothic romance. You think about ABC Murders, which is a serial killer thriller. You think about, and then there were None, which is a slasher movie, basically. She was essentially, with each new thing, she was coming at it in an entirely different way and finding ways to surprise herself and surprise the audience also.
So my colleague Elson Wilmore, film critic, who was supposed to interview you instead of me, she has this theory, which I believe she's going to write about. By the way, read her, she's great. That the popularity of Knives Out and murder mysteries and that construct of each movie standing on its own, having a sort of a sealed mystery, a sealed arc, that it is a counterpoint, that is a response to like essentially superhero cinematic universes in which it sprawls, everything relates to each other. Do you feel that resonates with you at all?
I feel like this is my opportunity to like be trending on Twitter tomorrow by saying something.
Well, you might be lucky
shitty
that Twitter
about,
might not be around tomorrow. So
that's true.
Yeah.
So what the fuck? So I tell you my thoughts on Marvel movies. Let's do it. Let's do this. Strap in. No. I absolutely relate to not specifically in terms, and this isn't an indictment of superhero movies or Marvel movies, but just generally. Also, you think about TV, for instance, and how I'm making my first TV show right now. It's called Poker Face. It's with Natasha Lyonne. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, we'll be here this weekend.
And it's basically, it's a case of the week episodic TV show. It's not a serialized thing where it's one story over an entire season. You get a single story per episode, and it's Natasha Lyonne basically as a it's like Magnum PI or Rockford Files or Columbo. She is basically or Murder, She Wrote. She's the central character in it, but you're going to get a whole new cast every single episode, a new guest star. And that was, for me, as obviously some of the best storytelling. I mean, look, Breaking Bad. I mean, some of the best storytelling that we've seen in the past however many years has been this long form.
Of which you've directed 3 of the standout episodes.
Right. But it's been this long form serialized, it's phenomenal. It's not to take anything away from that. I feel like we've hit a point where streamers have come to think that is the only form of storytelling that gets people to keep hitting play next. And I feel like there's a real thirst to get back to, I can just drop in for one episode of this and get like a full story, and it's not like a 10-episode commitment to figure out who done it, And I don't know. For me personally, I felt that pull, and so the notion of getting back to sort of self-contained. I love endings. That's the other thing. I love endings and true endings, and not just like ... question mark endings. And so. With movies, but also it's really fun having built now like 10 episodes of this show, each one of which has an actual ending. It feels cool, yeah.
So what do you, so actually, I was going to ask you about Poker Face because I'm fascinated by the sort of archetype of the Columbo type detective, and then you have the Benoit Blanc type detective. In your mind, how do you theorize the difference between these two types of detectives?
Well, I mean, the big difference is a genre one. It's the how done it versus the who done it, and so it's. In Columbo, and I'm sure everyone here is probably a Columbo fan, but if you don't know, they show you the first act is always the crime itself. It's showing the killer, showing who done it and exactly how, but they usually hold out one little bit of information. And then Columbo enters, and it's about seeing him unravel it and figure out how he's going to do it. And intuitively, you would think that's not interesting, and it's riveting. It's fantastic. And that's actually the way we structure Poker Face, is we do show the crime up at the beginning. It's a how done it as opposed to a who done it mystery, as opposed to Knives Out and Glass Onion, which are whodunits, where you are coming in through the perspective of the detective, more or less. You only have as much information as them, and again, more or less. And the object is to kind of figure out who did it by the end. Although it isn't really, and that's I guess that's the other kind of not trick, but approach with Knives Out and Glass Onion for me is. I feel like being a big fan of the genre, I can say that it's a complete lie that the pleasure of a whodunit is presenting a puzzle to the audience that they could potentially solve. I think the authors of Ellery Queen famously said, yes, we play fair with the audience if the audience is the most genius person who ever lived. The reality is, the pleasure of the story is the same pleasure as any story, which is what's making you lean forward and engage. What character are you worried about? What are the dramatic stakes? As opposed to making you lean back and stroke your chin and figure it out. A roller coaster as opposed to a crossword puzzle is what I like. Is what I say. So yeah.
I admire how you've definitely weaved without saying anything inflammatory about the Marvel franchises.
Fuck it, though. You know what?
I want to talk very, very briefly about sort of your filmmaking sort of at large. So you've made a neo-noir, you've made a caper, you've made a sci-fi movie, you've made a Star Wars movie, and you've made a whodunit / murder mystery. You've made a second one. What draws you to genre? You talked about your interest in specific genres, but what draws you to genres at large?
I don't know. I mean, they're fun, and they're also. I guess what's fun about them, to me at least, is, I mean, first of all, the fact that, I probably like a lot of people here, I grew up watching them, and so I have a deep emotional attachment to all the genres that you mentioned, not just in an intellectual way, but in a, this is the stuff that kind of fed my childhood, and so there's deep roots there. Also, though, I mean, in an intellectual way, they give you a chessboard. They give you and the audience a shared, defined chessboard. And especially playing with genre right now when audiences are so savvy, it's even more exciting because I feel like all of us know so well at this point the tropes and the way these things work. And to me, the benefit of that is that creates a dialogue, that creates an underground dialogue throughout the course of the story between you and the audience of where you're playing with that, where you're playing against it, and that to me is a fun kind of, not meta, but sort of meta conversation to have with the audience during the course of the film.
Are you a big board game person? Because you speak as a...
Bar game?
Board game.
Board
but also,
game.
you can play board games.
I get bar games, yeah. Not as much. I have friends who are super into kind of this new wave of board games, and I played a few of them, but generally my wife and I, we sit down to do them, and we get 20 minutes into trying to parse the instructions, and we kind of give up. But I'm a big crossword puzzle fan, and I'm a big puzzle fan in general. So
when I think about genres and people's relationship to genres, how they follow them, bend them, break them, I think about rules. Are you a big rules person?
Sure. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it feels like
sound tentative.
I don't know. In terms of story, yes. In terms of, I mean, I think that in terms of writing, I don't know. I feel like in terms of genre, in terms of like the approach to the rules of it versus breaking the rules of it. Every time I've sat down to write any of these things, like these murder mysteries or a Star Wars movie or anything, it's always trying to get back to the essential pure pleasure. It's like remember in Tron when they find the glowing river and drink it. It's like, oh, here's the source. It's trying to find that with a genre which has had a lot of iterations and a lot of veneer put on it over many, many years. And it's trying to, like with Brick, my first film, it all came from me reading Dashiell Hammett and feeling like I knew and loved film noir, but reading Dashiell Hammett's books, it felt like being punched in the stomach, and it was trying to get to that kind of feeling that those books gave me. Or with Star Wars, it was with The Last Jedi, it was trying to get back to the actual feeling of being a kid and seeing The Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
And not the memory of it as an adult, but the actual feeling as a kid, it was fucking terrifying. And it was like actually feeling like anything was at play and the good guys were losing, and it was scary in the way that fairy tales should be scary. Scary in the way that fairy tales as illustrations of rites of passage or different parts of life should actually terrify you, because they represent kind of a child's perspective on these massive life changes that you don't understand, but are trying to. So anyway, it's a lengthy answer to it's yes, I love rules, but I love them to get to sort of really much more base pleasures, you know.
So I'm guessing you're not a big jazz guy.
Jazz?
Yeah. I'll leave that for David Chazelle.
Okay.
Is there a genre? So I think Knives Out sets you up to play with different genres within the murder mystery construct. But is there a genre that you haven't tackled that you would really like to, like a rom-com or a sports
musicals? Oh my God, I would love to do a musical. Are you kidding me?
What's your favorite musical?
Are you kidding me? I mean, and I guess this isn't a spoiler because I've gotten to talk about it a few times, but one of the great pleasures of this movie was both Angela Lansbury and Stephen Sondheim have a very small little cameos in Glass Onion, and I don't want to oversell it. It's just one fun little scene, but it meant that I got to actually, with both of them, sit down with them and like shoot a little thing with them. And
did you get to talk shop?
I mean, a little bit, but it was just like 10 minutes. Mainly, what I got to do is tell them both, and I'm a big musical theater nerd, and Sondheim is my guy, and so getting to tell him what his work meant to me, even like a fumbling way, was incredibly special.
What was the first ever musical you ever saw?
I mean, the first one I ever saw was probably Phantom of the Opera. I think. Shout out, no shame. I love it. I actually love Phantom. I will go see Phantom anytime. But I feel like when I discovered Sondheim and when I got into, and actually, no, I take that back. Sweeney Todd. There was a filmed version of Sweeney Todd that was on like PBS when I was young. That was the version with Lansbury and I think it was Lynn Carew in the leads, and it was just like a filmed version of the stage version. And it was, I remember that being like kind of my entry point into it. And anyway, yeah. So musicals, but there's so many. I mean, yeah.
There's entire different styles for you to draw from. I'm excited to see whatever musical you make. We have 7.5 minutes, and I have a bunch of rapid-fire questions if you're ready for that.
Let's do it. Come on.
So, Benoit Blanc, were there alternate names?
No, not really. But I did. I feel like I owe like credit or an apology to my French tutor at the time, whose first name was Benoit, and that's where I took that from. But yeah, Benoit. Benny White. Yeah.
You call him Benny? Yeah. Wow.
I would not dare.
My colleague, Rebecca Auteur, asks, who would win in a fist fight? Benoit Blanc or Kenneth Branagh's Hercule Poirot?
Oh, Jesus. I mean, look, I got James fucking Bond in my movie. I feel like we could take him. But Kenneth Branagh has no lightweight, so I don't want to...
Yeah, no, that dude looks like he would, really, like, shine in a bar fight.
There's an ongoing joke in Glass Onion where, and a friend of mine, Michael Lerman, gave me this joke that it's like a pool party and Benoit Blanc never wants to take off his shirt. So he's like in the pool in his shirt. And at some point where I thought this was very funny, and I thought, it'll be nice because Daniel doesn't have to worry about like working out all the time. And he's like, I just came off the last James Bond. Like, I am actually kind of buff right now, right? You sure you don't want me to take my shirt off? And I was like,
I'll leave it a surprise as to whether he does or not. Poirot is normally a light sleeper. Linda Drysdale in Knives Out is a light sleeper. Are you a light sleeper?
I can sleep, like, I can drink a pot of coffee and fall asleep
You're
next to
sleeper.
a jackhammer and sleep for 12 hours. Yes, my wife hates this about me.
Have you ever suffered from insomnia?
Yeah, no, never. Are you kidding? I could fall asleep right now. You guys want to see that?
You
Fest?
are drinking. Okay, so in Knives Out, Benoit is famous. There's a New Yorker profile written about him. It's my understanding watching the movie that a lot of the characters are aware of his fame because of the New Yorker profile. The byline on the New Yorker profile, what is it?
Oh God, I'd have to go back and look. It was something pretty good. It was like
It's Leopold Checker.
what? Leopold? Wait.
Checker.
Okay, so
Or at least, because I was like staring at the screen, it was kind of blurry.
I wanted to credit because I'm friends with Alex Ross, who's the music critic for the New Yorker, and I wanted to just credit him. But the New Yorker has a rule that you can't like.
You can't.
You can't. And so
Well, I think that's bullshit because you're about to see Tar, and Adam Gopnik's fucking in Tar.
Well, I'm gonna have a word with the New Yorker then, because yeah, all right.
But it would have been Alex Ross.
It would have been Alex Ross.
Okay,
Yeah, I thought
great.
that would have been very funny.
We talked about board games. Do you have a favorite board game?
Yeah, we like Trivial Pursuit, I guess. We like Trivial Pursuit. We also, though, because we kind of were like, are we into Monopoly? Like, we kind of like enjoyed Monopoly. And we bought, have you guys seen this version of Monopoly they put out recently that's the longest Monopoly game of all time? Did you see this specialized version? They put one out where the purpose of this set is they've altered the rules so that the game will go on for like 18 hours. And a couple of times we've sat down like, we keep getting pulled into it. We keep like saying, this is so boring and stupid. And then we'll have a night where we're just like, let's give like Ultimate Monopoly a try. And then we'll quit after 2 hours. Anyway, sorry.
What's the last great movie you've seen?
I feel like what's really exciting is right now, this is like, there's actually a bunch, like a whole thing of movies that are coming out now that are fucking great and are really exciting. And it feels.
What's the last one that you literally saw?
The last one I saw was, we saw Fabelmans last night, which is terrific. It's so good, and just seeing like that last 5 minutes, holy shit.
Okay, I haven't seen it. So
What happens is Banshees of Inisherin.
Colin Farrell and his eyebrows.
Absolutely incredible, and like just a kind of a depth charge of sadness that kind of lingers with you after you come out of the theater. Absolutely beautiful work of art. We're going to see Tar tonight, actually. We're going to check it. I'm really excited to see it. I need to see Triangle of Sadness. I've heard it's great.
I haven't seen that yet, but I heard it's good.
Everything Everywhere All at Once. I love this so much this year. There's just so many good movies out this year. It's really genuinely exciting.
What's a good or great TV show you're currently watching?
You know what we gotten back into doing is watching Jeopardy every night.
Oh, shit.
Oh, my God.
Who do you prefer?
Well, Ken, obviously.
Okay.
I mean, we love Mayim's wonderful, but Ken is incredible. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, we've gotten back into it, and the Tournament of Champions is happening right now, which is just Jeopardy nerd Super Bowl. So it's very exciting. Yeah.
Have you seen Andor? Andor.
Oh, no, I haven't. I've been saving them up. So, no, I haven't gotten to dive in yet, but I'm excited that when I do, I'll be able to watch them all.
It's
I
very
keep
good.
hearing it's phenomenal.
It's fantastic.
I cannot wait to watch it.
It's a stacked year for TV, but I think it's my favorite thing all year.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah. So I'm very excited to sit down and binge them all. Yeah.
What's your favorite conspiracy theory?
Yikes. So this isn't a conspiracy theory, but like, somebody told me this, and it's probably apocryphal, that there was a guy like who was a consultant who approached the company that makes Tabasco and said had a meeting with like the head of the company and said, I have an idea. It's going to take me 20 seconds to pitch you. I'm not going to tell it to you unless you pay me like whatever, $10 million. But if I tell it to you, it's this thing you can only do once that will increase your profits by X% for all the years going forward. And they did it. They paid him to tell what it was.
You're just going to end right there?
Oh, I don't know what it was. No, I'm kidding. No. So what it was is, so basically he's like, so they paid him. And he sits down in the boardroom and he goes, everyone like does the Pasco thing and they have like 2 or 3 shakes just that they do. What you do is you take the little pinhole at the top of the Tabasco, you expand it by just 0.5 millimeter. So a little more comes out, and so you're going to sell X more Tabasco every year.
This is your favorite conspiracy theory?
This is the first thing that popped into my drunken mind. This was a...
How do you feel, this is from Jackson McHenry, who's also my colleague. How do you feel about Damon Lindelof really loving the fish nuns in The Last Jedi?
Loving what?
The fish nuns.
Wait, what?
David Lindelof apparently
He
really
loves
loves
the fish
duns.
duns? I'll take it. I will take this opportunity to pitch. If anyone didn't watch the Watchmen series that he did, it's one of the best things of the past decade. It's absolutely phenomenal, his Watchmen series, yeah.
Very last question, and this is from Alison Wilmore. Fuck, marry, kill famous fictional detectives.
Oh, my God. Oh, God, this is tough. Okay, so fuck, marry, kill, Jesus. Well, I don't know who I would kill. Famous fictional detective. This is a landmine. This is not going to go well. This is bad. Also, the fact that yeah, I don't know. I guess I would marry Mrs. Marple because she seems. That seems like it'd be a nice kind of like country life,
Sure.
just living with Mrs. Marple, like, or Jessica Fletcher, I think.
Playing it safe, okay.
Or maybe I should fuck Jessica Fletcher. Maybe that would be. I have a feeling she's kind of secretly freaky, and that could be like a really no. Or Sherlock Holmes, I guess, would be probably because I just like
Wait,
read
fuck
it.
Sherlock Holmes or
Probably because he's got
which
that like.
which Sherlock Holmes?
Well, I was thinking of the books because I'm a literary son of a bitch.
Okay,
Yeah. And then kill. Who would I kill? Oh boy, who do I? I would kill. I don't know. I love all of them too much to kill.
Come
Is
on,
that
don't
dodging? I
come out
can't
on
pussy
me.
out here. Okay. You know who God, jeez. You know who would be? So I don't know if you guys are familiar with John Dixon Carr, who's phenomenal. I'll use this opportunity. I don't know if I would actually want to kill this person, but it's a great opportunity to pitch reading more John Dixon Carr. He was actually an American, but he spent a lot of time in England. And he was writing in the golden age of the detective fiction era, like in the 30s. He has a detective named Gideon Fell, who's currently like my favorite whodunit detective. He's modeled on G.K. Chesterton. He's like this big, huge, massive man who walks on two canes and is kind of a total asshole and is just hilarious, very funny. So, sure, I'll kill him. Whatever. I'm gonna get caught for it anyway. So yeah, it's fine.
Ladies and gentlemen, Rian Johnson.
Guys, thank you so much for coming. I appreciate it. Thank you, Nick.
Thanks so much, Amanda.